Hi, Inge. Thank you very much for being here on call with us today with More Global. Could you please let us know your current exact role at Radisson Hotels?
Yes, hello and hi everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. So I'm Inge Huijbrechts, and I am the Global Senior Vice President of Sustainability, Security and Corporate Communications at Radisson. And Radisson's, our brands, 9 leading brands are represented in 1,700 hotels in 120 countries. So we're international, like you.
Exactly. You are absolutely global. Inge, ESG is in the very focus of our daily lives, basically, both in consulting and at hotel companies. I will go directly for the question, what is Radisson's take at this challenging environment on ESG, and what are Radisson's goals in ESG?
Yeah. I fully agree with you, right? We had a summer with one extreme after the other, and it doesn't stop. So we all know that if we don't act, we're heading for a +3 degree planet instead of a +1.5 global warming, which is what we agreed in Paris. So as global companies, we absolutely have a responsibility because we touch hotel assets and we touch the guests. So we can convince the guests to travel more responsibly, and most importantly, we can work on the building portfolio. And I think that is really where there's a lot of opportunity to be developed, because the building stock represents, any buildings represent 30% of the global footprint. I mean, if you allocate that to hospitality, it's much less, but there's a lot of opportunity in buildings. And as with regards to Radisson, we actually have a long tradition in sustainability. Our origins are in the Nordics, so we already had an environmental policy before the 90s or in the 90s. But now I must say that the key focus for any company taking sustainability seriously is net zero. So we have committed to being net zero by 2050. But that means, it seems long away, but it means that we have to halve our footprint by 2030. And what we also need to realize is that you, of course, know that we work with leased and managed and franchise companies. But when you look at a footprint and net zero, it's for everything. It's scope 1, 2, and 3. So we are getting our confirmation right now. It's going to be delivered any day now of the Science Based Targets Initiative. So that is a key transformation that we are in. And then the other one is what I touched upon before, is that we want to touch the hearts and the minds of the guests. So we want to provide complete transparency and a solid baseline level of what hotel sustainability means. And then I'm talking about things you see in the guest experience, but also some fundamentals. Exactly. And we have been instrumental in leading the industry on what is called Hotel Sustainability Basics. So that is that common baseline that now 70 leading players have already subscribed to, and that will be seen on booking platforms, etc.
Fantastic. And Inge, these are really challenging goals, but I think Radisson has proved themselves in quite many ways that ESG is taken very seriously. But on a more global scale, how do you see that? What does sustainable growth? How does sustainable growth mean? What does growth mean for the hotel industry? But how does it marry with net zero targets globally?
Yeah, I think, the good thing is that the world is aware. I mean, we had the Paris Agreement, you have the subsequent COP agreements. There's a COP summit coming in Egypt this year. So the world knows. It's all on the forefront. And unfortunately, the negative impact of climate change is also on the forefront of everyone's reality. Now, how does that marry with growth? We have a very ambitious growth plan. For example, we want to double the size of the company in the next 5 years with a heavy focus on Asia Pacific, but also with growing in EMEA as we have done before and where we have worked together. So it does marry, because I do think that, for example, on net zero, what the main thing is, the main levers are going to renewable energy and increasing the efficiency of the buildings. So, for example, we have a renewable energy strategy for our key markets that is really like a playbook that we can activate with solutions, and the solutions are they vary across the regulatory context in the different places. So it's different in Europe than it is in India, than it is in Indonesia, etc. But we're looking at that and we're activating that. And the other thing is the efficiency of the building. So of course we know it's a conversion-driven market right now. So that's a bit harder, but it is feasible. We have converted buildings that made the highest building eco label. So you see more efficiency in conversion and design. And then, of course, we can also introduce efficiency in operations through MEP investments and MEP maintenance. But I think where there's really also a touch point between the work that you do as consultants and what we would like to achieve as operators, which is net zero by 2050, is really on those buildings. What can we do there and what can we do there together? Because you can grow and you can grow responsibly.
Exactly. And when it, how I see it is that the operator companies and the big brands are only one of the stakeholders, but it's really also the responsibility of financiers and developers themselves. How do you think owners could better focus on ESG in the preparation phase already of projects?
Well, it's exactly that. Think about it, bring it in, work if you need to with a consultant like yourselves to define what that means, to put it on the table. I mean, for example, at Radisson, what we have done is we have our technical standards, which are already very good, but we have defined more innovative standards, more standards that are oriented towards ESG, which are called Build Planet and Build Planet Advanced. And those will bring a building up to the level that is needed for a green building certification, such as LEED or BREEAM or EDGE, if you are in an emerging market. So the point is, if developers consider this, it will make it easier to work with operators afterwards, because all of the big operators like Radisson, we have our targets. But most importantly, it will increase the value of the building, especially in mature markets, because you have the regulatory context, you have a lot of subsidies. Sometimes, you know, you have the carrot, but you also have the stick, like in France with the décret tertiaire or other things, other laws. So I think if developers bring it in, they will benefit, and it will be beneficial for the full life cycle operation of the building, especially now with the HLP and the utility costs that we are seeing, which is also, you know, it's not going to be over immediately.
Exactly.
But I think, you know, that's where maybe consultants like yourself can bridge that gap, or can bring these two expectations together and make sure that these requirements are put on the table early, because by the time the operators come on board, we have our plans, our strategies, and our frameworks, but it's a way that you can bridge
the
that
need to
and bring it in.
Well.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Thank you, Inge, very much for being with us today.
My pleasure. Have a good conference.